Pigeons 420. Mr. Grow It. And Rob from Cannabis Lifestyle TV. From the Stash Podcast.
Hey, what's up, guys? Do you want to get your hands on the latest From the Stash merch? Check the links below, get the From the Stash store, and go check to see the latest drop. We appreciate all the support, as always, and we will check you in the next epi. And a huge shout out to Flava for sponsoring today's video. If you're looking for that one secret sauce to help increase yield, average THC, and terpene profile, you're going to want to use Flava. Flava is a polymer-based solution that will help your plant uptake nutrients to the most effective manner and help hold those nutrients so that your plant has no issues in uptaking those nutrients. In an independent test, Flava was found to increase yield by 12%, the average THC percentage by 14%, and the average terpene percentage by 118%. This is the secret sauce that you're missing in your garden, so don't wait. Go get yourself some Flava. Use the links below and promo code THESTASH to save a few dollars off at checkout, and thank them for being a sponsor of today's video.
AC Infinity is also sponsoring this episode. Use discount code THESTASH15 for a discount on any of their products. AC Infinity is well known to have some of the highest quality gardening equipment on the market today. They have everything from grow lights, grow tents, inline fans, oscillating fans, smart controllers, and so much more. Visit their website at acinfinity.com and don't forget to use discount code THESTASH15 to save on any of their products.
We're traveling, hey? So what are we going to be talking about today?
Man, so with traveling, I've handled my travel grow decently because I'm blessed to be able to have Mama help out. She got the green thumb. She'll show up and handle business when she needs to. Chris in the past has been able to have a roommate that would handle a lot of things, and it would be good. And P, you've had, I almost said step-pops, but that'd be a weird situation. Yeah, father-in-law / father. We'll say straight father. We'll go that far. Your pop.
It works. Yep.
Coming in to do some shit. But usually it's not the best option. I'm going to just say, I'm going to go ahead and say that because it's our garden and we know how we like to do things. So how does one manage a garden when you're out of town or when you're traveling often? And P, you're traveling a lot right now. So yeah. How does one go about it? And the simple side of you're not going too far, but you still are going to be gone 3-4 days a week, every week.
Yeah. And the thing is with the plants being at this stage, you know, that really dictates, you know, how hard or how much effort you got to put in is based on the stage that your plant is in. You know, veg plants can take maybe a little more abuse than your flowering plants. My flowering plants right now being in 5-gallon pots are huge. So they're requiring attention every second day. So you water them one day, you'll get away with doing nothing the next day, but you have to get in there that second day or, you know, there's going to be trauma. One of the main things that I make sure that I'm taking care of is no excessive growth. You know, the biggest issue that I'm having is trying to ensure that they're not drying out. And I guess that's really what you're trying to battle when you're trying to, or when you're traveling, is to ensure that you can get them through that stage. Now, of course, you can get an auto watering system, but we'll talk on that in a moment. What I just did today was I went through my garden and I removed all the low, just really weak growth that's on the plant. It's going to take away anything that's going to be drawing more moisture away. You know, less plant, less demand for water. You know, that's definitely one of the things that I'm thinking about. So if I can ensure that the plants are well trained, well cleaned, I know that it's not going to be demanding as much water. Should she just be gangly and just looking real haggard, taking as much attention as she can get. Training and maintenance is definitely a number one when it comes to you know, stretching that span of time when you're traveling.
Yeah, we'll see. And then you think about a situation of even topping or doing some significant low stress training before you leave. That can slow down some growth depending how long you're gone. That's like almost a positive stress in that side of things. Before I left for, what was it, 7 days? Was it 6 days for Vegas when we went? Something like that.
5-6 days. Yeah.
I took a chop off a big one that I had. I was like, I don't want you getting too tall while I'm gone, because I've come back. Like, you notice it just like if you see somebody or like a kid you don't see for a couple months, you notice the growth. You're like, holy shit. Speaking of, versus every day you see that plant. You don't notice the growth as much, but that 7
Just
day
chop
gap.
the kid's legs off. What a
Just
great
take-
idea. I never even thought of that. That'll definitely slow down the growth.
Then they won't go anywhere, you know. But in all reality, with the plants, is doing that hard chop for me did slow down some growth. And if you do have that lanky plant, sometimes it's beneficial. I don't want a plant that's going to get close to the light and get burnt. When somebody who doesn't really know what to do, they wouldn't jump, be like, oh my God, I got to raise the light. They probably don't even know how to raise the fucking light. And if no one's there, what are you going to do in that sense? It's good if you got a trellis set up or scrog so the plant's already low and maintained, but the growth can definitely be an issue. I see you're coming from the training side, but with the feeding, some people will feed real heavy before they go out of town. Some people being myself, I've done that. But then other times, it's like if you get that plant used to the lower EC, it's not going to stress as much if it doesn't get as much food, versus if it's used to getting a bunch of food, it's going to be a little harder to just deplete that over a 5-day, 4-day period of time. So I usually myself, I'll try to do heavier watering so that way it's fully saturated more than anything, but lower that EC a little bit personally. And it's usually cultivars that I grow. They're a little finicky. I left last time and the watering was done with flowering nutrients in the veg space, and the plants were angry as shit when I came home. Like they just noticed it. And so you really need to make sure that you have that system down before you go anywhere, because if someone's going to be taking care of it for you, they may not know the exact step-by-step process. Even if you lay it out for them, they don't have common grow sense, so to speak.
Yeah, and I just add a little bit more there. Your water as heavy as you can at the very last minute. I leave Thursday night this week, and I will put off watering my plants until Thursday night. It'll be the last thing I do. Now it's Thursday night, it's for Thursday night for me, not the plants, meaning that they go to bed later. But I'm just thinking, the last possible moment so that it can stretch out that moisture in the pot is going to go a long way as well.
Yeah. When the plant is small, I mean, you guys touch upon this already, right? It's going to be a little bit more easier, right? Try to plan ahead as much as possible. If you have smaller plants, maybe you want to be in a bigger container that holds more soil, has nutrients in it, is able to keep the moisture longer, right? So consider the pot size if you can. Consider being in a little bit larger of a pot size. Certainly, if you're running hydroponics, we have supposed to check on it every single day. You might want to avoid doing hydroponics if you can, because you're not going to be there to be able to check the pH and ppm every day, every 2 times a day, however frequently you usually do it. Cocoa is probably something you want to avoid as well. It's a little bit more airier of a medium. Soil tends to hold the moisture a little bit better, holds the nutrients a little bit better. Won't have to feed or water as often with that. If you're in flowering, you can definitely struggle, right? Because like P said, every couple of days, depending on the pot size and the size of the plant, the medium is going to dry up, right? So do you want to add in an auto watering system? Last time around when I left for a week actually for Hawaii. And this is one of the first times when the plants were on their own. And I had Blue Mat auto watering system set up, a 14-gallon reservoir, filled it up pretty much to the top. And that lasted the whole week. Plants were fine. And I was growing organically, and I made sure to top feed shortly before, so it had nutrients the entire time. It was just dropping down onto those nutrients, making sure the medium was moist, and the plants were fine for that entire week. Now, one problem I did run into, which I kind of overlooked, and Rob touched upon this, was the training or support of the plants. So my plants were in flowering. I came home, and they were kind of flopping all over the place. So I had wished I had added in some sort of either trellis or stakes ahead of time, because particularly in flowering, when those buds start to get so heavy, you'll see some floppage, right? You could see some floppage. So keeping that in mind, that's one thing that I overlooked last time around, is making sure that the plants are supported or trained, or like Rob said earlier, topped prior, so that that way you don't come home to your plant on the ground in some areas.
Yeah, that's happened. I've seen it.
As an alpha male, I don't particularly deal with floppage, but what I do deal with is what I do think. What I do deal with is the stretch. Depending on how long you're gone, your garden can do a lot of things. Sorry, I still just laughing at my own jokes.
It's good. It was
your garden can do a lot of things on you. So you know what? Dimming your lights and maybe raising them a bit isn't a bad option either. Prepare for the unexpected. It's amazing what can happen in 4 days. I'm in the first few weeks of flower, and in 4 5 days, that's your first few days of flower, that you're going to see some stretch, so give yourself a little bit of a buffer there. Raise your lights, maybe dim them down a little bit, expect the extremes. So what's the worst case that can happen? I'd hate to see the lights pushing your tent to 90 degrees freedom units. So, maybe turn it down, open a vent, just to be prepared. That would be one of the things that I'd be, trying to proactively aim for. Maybe do a spray, an IPM right before you leave as well. It's as important as watering, right? So that at least for a few days after you're gone, that the bugs aren't taken over. That would be something I'd be a little worried about as well.
Well, and even dealing with things like powdery mildew. The first time I got powdery mildew, I left right in the summertime to go on like a little vacation to Florida. It's gone for 5 days. Come back and I've got PM. And really it was because I had a basic ass inline fan. I wish I would have had AC Infinity. Shout out to them, not even a sponsor plug, they're a sponsor, but legit something that's auto controlled based on the environment. It's huge. Whether you're using something you DIY'd or you got an AC Infinity product, it's mandatory. I feel like if your environment changes while you're gone, if you got a really, really rainy day, which that's happened to me, and that's what happened. It was summer, super, super rainy. Humidity went up to like 90%. And I had my fan really, really low because at the time it was like 40% or 30% when I left. That gigantic increase, I feel like, was really what caused it. And it was so full. The garden was just so packed at the time. And I ended up getting powdery mildew. And I was gone for enough time where it spread and it became a big issue. And that's where you can have somebody back there who can handle your garden for you. But when you get into the point of having issues and they're not experienced, nobody could help a whole lot with that. Even if you have the Wise camera or any sort of camera set up, you can see the issue, but what are you going to do to fix it when you're gone? So that's the prevention thought process, the IPM, lowering the PPFD on your light potentially, even the EC on your nutrients, a little bit of stuff like that. So you're almost setting that plant up, you're hardening that plant off for that bit of time you're going to be out of town. It's really, really dangerous when you're not going to be there to control everything in an indoor garden especially.
These guys are taking the words out of my mouth. Raise up the lights, dim it down. That's the one practice I've done. Automation, key. Rob hit the nail on the head there. I understand some people are on a budget, right? They're not going to be able to afford a $150 inline fan in order to control the temperature and humidity, control the airflow in the grow space. But AC Infinity, those automated fans, the Cloudline series is highly recommended, right? Because you can set on the controller different set points. Automatic set points. So when it reaches a certain temperature, it's too high, for example, it'll kick on and start exhausting some of that hot air out. Same thing with humidity. If humidity raises up too much, well, you have a set point, it'll start exhausting some of that humidity to prevent some of that powdery mildew from potentially forming. Certainly you want to have oscillating fans on 24 hours a day to make sure there's airflow going around. There's nothing worse than having high humidity, stagnant air, and then you run into botrytis, right? Bud rot. Heartbreaker on that one.
Yeah, honestly, I try not to plan trips when I've got plants that are close to harvest. Like I've literally harvested a little early, or I've delayed a trip. Like it's really difficult at that point. Somebody needs to be there, and if you don't have like a garden buddy or somebody who can come in and help, unless it's a business trip, you may want to change when you go, because it's like this. It's a risk. And I'm funny as I say that, I'm harvesting right around then, but thank God my mom has a green thumb, so she can help me in that sense. She's very competent in the garden. Now, when I've got special things that I'm doing, or I'm pheno hunting, or I'm doing auto flowers, that's a big thing. It becomes an issue, but sometimes you got to prioritize your garden. Like when you committed to growing, you committed to growing. And if you want to have a good harvest, you can't sacrifice it in the end by saying, I'm going to go to Florida if I can get some sun. I need some vitamin D. It's like, push it off another week. You may have
Priorities. No,
and
you're
that's
right.
that's the worst case condition, but it's a reality. Tag, or thick ass glass. Use discount code the stash at checkout to get 25% off on any of your pieces, whether it's a water pipe, an oil rig, or something like a regular hand pipe. They got you covered. Quality, build, and function is what Tag is all about. When you're looking for a quality piece that you're going to have for years to come, thick ass glass is the way to go. Now myself, I'm not normally a glass guy, but man, when I got this piece, I finally realized I was missing out on quality glass. There's a big difference from stuff that you get overseas that is just not quality made and not going to be something you have long term versus something like a thick ass glass piece. So if you're looking to upgrade your smoke game or just get yourself another piece to add to the collection, use discount code the stash at checkout at thickassglass.com.
Also, MD Lipper in the chat had mentioned cameras, so Waze cameras, and that's certainly something that can be helpful to be able to look at your grow. But Rob had brought up a great point: is if there's something wrong, I mean, you could see the problem, but what are you going to do about it, right? Potentially leaving a key with a friend, an emergency situation, you might have to do that, right, if possible. Also, having something that give you alerts. Like I use a sensor push monitor. I have that hung canopy level, and it'll give me alerts if my temperature is too high, humidity is too high, maybe the inline fan failed, isn't working. So that would be an emergency situation where I call up a friend and say, hey, man, I need you to stop by there, break a window or something to get in there because my tent's at over 90 degrees, 95 degrees. It's a situation that's pretty extreme, but an emergency situation, I should say. So I personally, when we're talking about humidity, I live in a very dry climate, so I need humidifiers, and humidifiers, they run out after a while, right? So I have I have one of the bigger ones. It's like a 1.5 gallon tank, but that's out within 24 hours. This last trip when I just went on, I was out for a week, right? I was gone for a week. I brought in some old humidifiers that I had. I literally had 5 different humidifiers, and 3 of them were smart humidifiers, so I could control them on my phone, turn them on and off my phone, and then 2 regular humidifiers. I put my 2 regular humidifiers on to start, and then I found out that they ran out is when I got that sensor push alert. So I was like, okay, humidity dropped so low. Now let me trigger on that first backup humidifier, I should call it smart humidifier. So that pumped on, worked out for another 24 hours, got another sensor push alert. Okay, let me trigger the other humidifier. Kept on doing that. Now that didn't last the entire week. There was 2 days where my humidity dropped like crazy just because I didn't have any humidifiers. But that's something just to keep in mind, the potential option in the future to have that smart humidifier. On the dehumidifier side of things, I don't really know how to go about it. Maybe you guys would know how to go about it because I know those fill up, right? You need a drain. You need a hose to drain it off. So how would you guys go about that?
Dude, I have flooded the entire basement in the past. Because it didn't drain properly. It was a fucking headache. I've had situations before where there was a power outage where you need a generator if you're serious with the garden, you can afford it. But if you don't have it and your power goes out, sometimes this equipment resets and it doesn't turn back on. If it's button-based stuff or all digital, it's a fucking headache. I've had way too many times where my heater comes back on at 95 degrees. I'm like, what the hell? It's super, super hot, or doesn't come back on at all because it's, again, digital. It wasn't a switch. So in those situations with a power outage and you have your humidifier that doesn't, let's say, or it overflows in those situations, it's kind of like your SOL. You needed to prepare earlier on. So with the dehumidifier, you need a drain. You need to have a hose. You need to make sure that it's running properly, and that if you can, you have something that's going to power it back up, possibly, whether that be a smart outlet so you can just turn it back on, or you upgrade and get a better quality humidifier or dehumidifier. And I've got a shitty one myself. It's nice because it's mechanical. So if the power goes out, it's a switch. So it comes right back on. It's not an issue. But the one I used to have was all digital, and it was really, really difficult to run. Now, Pete, I'm sure you run into it where you're at maybe a little bit, but probably a little dry, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm slightly drier than what I should be. Believe it or not, as you get this far north, it can almost be as dry as it is in the desert. But I think I want to give a highlight to that comment from Lipper, MD Lipper T88 here on Twitch, because your comment is kind of what led into this entire conversation. And I want to remind everybody, if you're watching this on YouTube, we actually record these episodes live on Twitch twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central, 3 Eastern, and 12 Pacific. And you can have an opportunity to influence the conversation and kind of help us go along with our conversation within the comment section. So come join twice a week, 2 p.m. Central, 3 Eastern, and 12 Pacific on twitch.tv/From the Stash Podcast. But yeah, it can be a bit dry up here, but what I kind of think is funny is in the world, if we can kind of segue into this because we've already discussed a bit, is in the realm of automation. It's funny how, it was not that long ago how we were discussing how lights should be integrated within your timer systems and within your controllers. And funny enough, AC Infinity came out with a light that's tied into their controller systems and their alerts. And it's like, it's only a matter of time, mark my words, before we're going to start having cooling systems humidity systems, whether it's a dehumidifier system or a humidifying system, that will be tied to their controllers. Because controller 69, which is their new controller, love their marketing team for that one. The you have full not control, but you have access via your app on your phone of the temperature, the VPD, the humidity, so on and so forth. So I honestly believe it's only a matter of time before through an app you will be changing or able to manipulate your environment within your tent from your phone. So it is incredible to see how much the technology has come, even within just a few, like a year, 2 years. It's amazing.
Now they're taking over the game,
and nothing's going to stop them. Like, so power to them. The one thing I kind of just wanted to briefly mention, because I think it'd be a disservice if we didn't mention an auto watering system. Something that I'm not familiar with, because as I've said before, I don't trust a man that doesn't hand mix his nutrients. But when it comes to an auto watering system, you've used blue mats. Is that correct, Chris?
I've used blue mats, and I've also used auto pots.
And what would you? How would you rate either one of them, and would you use them again?
I like both of them. So if I'm doing synthetics, either or, auto pot system is going to be a bottom fed system. So it's going to basically wick up the plant. So I personally had problems growing organically and using the auto pots, because when you do that top dressing, that top layer should be moist for proper breakdown. And the wicking up, I've personally had trouble. I know there's people out there that haven't had trouble using a mulch layer, cover crops, all that stuff has helped keep water retention. But me personally, synthetics on the auto pot system is fine. Synthetics through the blue mat system is fine, just as long as it's not like gunky material, stuff that's going to build up and potentially clog the lines. Most nutrient lines are going to be fine for those two things. But particularly if growing with organic nutrients, top dressing, blue mats would be my preferred choice over the auto pots, because that drips down from the top carrot system, and basically it's ceramic with some pores there, and basically you insert it into a moist medium, and then as it dries out, it's actually pulling the moisture. It's pulling outward and releasing the water from the line, allowing it to drop down and remoisten the medium. And then you could always chop dress the nutrients, have the water drop down onto the top dressing to keep it moist. So, and both of those systems are hooked up to a reservoir, and you can actually have it whatever size reservoir you want. So, depending on the number of plants, you could have, if you only have a couple plants, you could have a real small reservoir, 5-gallon bucket you could probably get away with, 14-gallon trash bin, something like that. Or you can go some of these larger, like 25-gallon containers. It's like 60 or 55-gallon drums. So you can work your way up depending on the number of plants that you're feeding down. But auto watering systems, yeah, definitely real key. Very helpful. Makes things a lot easier than, especially if you're going away for a long period of time, longer than, 3-4 days. What a standard pot size generally would take to dry out.
Do you have the ability to control that system from like your phone, or is it completely? No. It's from the system itself. Like it's just a timer.
Gravity fed. It's gravity fed, and then the auto pots are pretty much gravity fed, and then it's controlled by also how full it is at the bottom of the area where the grow pot is sitting in.
Is there a system out there that could be controlled via like a controller? Like
there are time systems out there, right? Drip systems have them on timers. I don't know. I'm not familiar with any technology that you could potentially hook up to your smartphone and control the timers through your phone. I'm sure there's something out there, but I personally haven't used a system like that.
Interesting.
Now, did anybody? I had to take off for a second. My kid was out here flipping out. But did anybody touch on the Niwa Grow Hub? That's something I used.
Nope.
Okay, so that thing it's still like in beta. They say it's not, but I feel like it's still in beta. It's a solid device. It's a power strip. Life is beta. It's got 4 outlets, and you could assign different things in there, like your watering, your temperature, your humidity, and you could actually set what you want it to be, and it'll have a sensor that goes over top of your plants, and it actually will, like where the canopy is, and it'll take pretty accurate readings. I mean, I'd say like 98% there, and then it'll trigger these things. So it'll go off if your humidity's too low or too high, like anything like that. Anything you need, you can set it perfectly. Only thing they don't have right now, I believe, is CO2. But they even just got a VPD chart added. Like, it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet. I check it out. It's the Neva Grow Hub.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. One other thing I do want to add in, if you are fortunate enough to go on vacation and have somebody watch your plants, whether it be a friend or family member or whatever, having some sort of a log for them to jot down what they're doing to the plants. It could be as simple as a piece of paper and a pen, right? But what I recommend is going through Google Sheets. That's typically what I use for a log right now. Simply, on the rows, it's the date, and then on the columns, it's the plant. And then within the cells, it would be what I do to the plant that day, whether it be, I did a watering. Sometimes I track how much water I fed, nutrients I've mixed up and fed to the plant, when I've transplanted, pH, ppm. So those are some of the things I log. And you might, in going through Google Sheets and sharing it, you'll be able to see when you're away, you can actually log in, on your phone and see Google Sheets, see what that person is doing. And that might help give some feedback in case something else needs to be done. So I figured I'd throw that one out there.
That's a good ass idea. And then you can work back and forth kind of with something like that too. I like it. Smart. In between, honestly, all the things that we just mentioned, if you're a frequent traveler, if you're, an entrepreneur, or for your business, you got to travel, or just for pleasure, you may want to throw almost all these things in the mix realistically, because then you're good to go. Not only is your life at home easy, more hands off, unless you want to get more hands on, but when you take off, your garden is going to be pretty much where it was before you left. It's on point. So it's really about that. I think focusing on the future, when you're planning for the future with your trip, the garden needs to be right in there with everything, whether that be your itinerary, you're traveling, everything. Plants need to be right there.
Same way you'd think about what you're going to do with your kids, you've got to think about what to do with your plants. This is a very, this is something we put a lot of effort into our gardens. The gardens is what it is, and it deserves to take that little extra attempt, to either have somebody come visit, write them a very well detailed list of the things that they need to be doing. And remember too, that not everybody just knows how to water a plant. I prefer that whoever's doing it does it slowly, so it's like, make sure you relay the messages, make sure you take the time to take into account that your plants need to be taken care of. And if you do all the steps to which we've discussed, I think you're in a very, very, great position to come back to a great, healthy garden. So diligence is key.
So if you're on Twitch over here, we're going to smoke, we're going to chill. If you're not, well, appreciate you tuning in. We will be back for the next episode, I guess, whenever you're listening to this. And it's your boy Rob from CLtv. I always say that, but it's your boy Rob just in general, because I'm on a bunch of shows. Mr. Grow It, Pigeons 420, and Wink on the ones and twos. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.
Let's smoke.